Hello everyone, and welcome to my guide for loot, anomalies, and dungeons for Project Silverfish as of beta 0.2.4. Before we get started, I do need to state that this game is still in very early access, so many of the systems in the game could change or be updated in a future patch. I know that the loot system in the game will be changed soon, and with that, the blue and red chests could be removed entirely in favor of a different loot progression system, so look out for another video later on when the next major update is released. I still want to detail all of the information that I know about the current patch, and this video could still provide as a helpful reference. So with that being said, let's get into the game's current loot system. To start off with, loot is primarily going to be found in chests. This sounds pretty obvious, but there are a couple of instances where there's some open world loot, like computer boards that you could find, or ammo, bandages, things like that. I will list those when I come across them, but there's not too many instances where that's the case. For the most time, chests will be randomized, and the loot that you gain from them will depend on your loot karma stat. There are a couple of instances where chests have static loot inside of them or have predetermined loot. Those chests won't affect your loot karma, but typically whenever you open a chest, it will look at your loot karma stat, whether it's positive or negative, and roll whether you get loot depending on that stat. High loot karma can result in better items, and low loot karma can result in not receiving any items. Karma is gained whenever you don't receive loot, or receive bad or very common loot, and karma is lost whenever you receive loot, and the loss is more severe the more rare the loot that you receive is. Chests will have loot tables which determine what drops from those chests, and chest loot, as far as I can tell, does not care about how much experience you have. So experience would be gained from completing contracts. Your experience will actually determine what kind of weapons enemies spawn with, and what kind of items spawn from shops or trades. The weird luck perk that you can either start the game with or earn from the shark hat flattens all of the RNG rolls in the game, so things that are more rare become as common as other things in the game. And with that, it makes the shops and barters have rare items more consistently. Here I have listed most of the types of chests that you will find inside of dungeons, besides the crate. That one I just felt like seeing how much loot karma you get from that one. But listed next to each of these different types of chests would be the loot karma amount that you gain from each of them if you loot them and receive no loot. Now, these types of chests I didn't mention because they mostly don't spawn inside of dungeons, at least not yet. They're mostly going to be like overworld or inside cities, things like that. And these chests will have mostly the standard loot pool with the chance of having sometimes treasure or like jewelry spawns, aside from the refrigerator which has just food spawns. So the basic loot that you would get from a majority of the chests that you find would consist of things like medical supplies or just tools, books, ammunition, cash, plenty of like miscellaneous kinds of loot. Large or tall chests have a chance of containing a large weapon, like a primary weapon, or they could also have armor. This is going to be very basic, low-tier armor. A majority of the time it would either be like an insulated jacket or a kind of armor set that you could start out the game with. Now, I do want to show a couple of clips. First, an example of having just absolutely zero loot karma. And then another clip showing just an extreme amount of loot karma. Getting to some of the chests more specifically, we have the medical cabinets, which will have just all of the medical healing supplies, bandages, stim pills, gauze, large medkits, medical paste. And then we'll have tool chests. So from what I found, these don't actually affect your loot karma at all, since they always have something inside of them, like a miscellaneous tool item or supply item. So look out for copper wire being from here, toolkits, crowbars, lockpicks, sometimes ether cells, very rarely. These are nice to open just whenever you see them. And then here I have all of the loot that I believe you're able to find from a blue chest. Feel free to reference this or screenshot it. I do want to thank my community member Adriana for helping put a lot of these loot tables together. This is every location that I know of that a blue chest can be looted. We're going to have the Dead Bridge hangar, the Cistern gas room, which you need the password to get into, the Burrow Hidden Junction tram. So this is a location that requires being hero status with the Revolution. The Refinery Red Train Car. This is going to be, once you get into the refinery past the gate, there's a locked red train car you can get into. Then the Exchange Red Train Car. This one's also locked and requires getting to the Exchange through consuming one of the Stardust. Then there's the Crashsite dungeon blue chest. which is a reward at the end of the dungeon. RG East Room S06, which is the locked room that requires opening. The E206 hangar, which is the last room in E206 dungeon. The Metropole Manor, which is kind of a reward room for the manor, also another locked room. And then the subway reward room at the end of the subway dungeon. Next we have armor lockers. This is everything that I know of that you're able to loot from an armor locker. These are always going to be locked and are able to be opened with a crowbar or a lockpick. And this is every location that I know of for an armor locker. So the Cistern maze, which is going to be after the underwater portion, and then the Cistern gas room again, the Perdition generator room, which is kind of the reward room for Perdition, the E206 terminal room, which is kind of the midway point for E206, the M35 dungeon, UT308 reward room. This should be the room that is after the gas trap, the Skeleton Coast bunker, the subway reward room again, RG East in the E03 room. Then at the Dead Bridge office, there are, I believe, 2 lockers that have an FTA conscript armor, and then the depot red train car, or one of them rather, is a military train car that is locked and has a more difficult armor locker which contains an FTA armor. Then at refinery in an office, and then there are a few inside Broker's vault. Now for artifact containers, these are containers that are always going to have an artifact from their own loot pool. So what I mean by that is they don't give you the same artifacts that are going to spawn out in the open world, and I don't believe they're ever going to give you the rare artifacts. These are always going to be located in the Metro basement buildings, so the apartments on the west side of Metro, then in RG East in room C04, and then in a room inside the M35 dungeon, then the reward room at Depot UT308, and then there's one at Depot E206, which would just be the red root sample. There's one at Dead Bridge Hangar, which would be the gold tesseract. And then there are about 4 inside the Broker's vault, with one being the regression matrix. Here I have every artifact that I have found that is able to be looted from an artifact container currently. I'm just going to list all of them here. I'm not going to read them off. Feel free to come back here and reference this, or take a screenshot if you want to know what each of the artifacts do. And here are the artifacts that I have found would be, I would say, the rare artifacts. Just the artifacts that the containers never have inside of them from what I've found. Next, we will have all of the contents of the red chests. Same thing with these, just feel free to take a screenshot of this. This is everything that we have found that comes from the red chests. And then the red chest locations would be the Perdition generator room, the Cistern red root room, Dead Bridge hangar, M35 dungeon, and then there is one inside Broker's vault. As a side note, the blue chests, red chests, armor lockers, and artifact containers, these don't affect loot karma at all when you open them, and they actually don't reset. And they also roll every day to determine what drops from them whenever you open them. Next, we have the enemies that you will find inside of the dungeons. First one that I have listed here is the Prowler Wolves. These are wolves that will start off invisible and will reveal themselves whenever they are close to you. I believe they have a very high health pool, but they don't have very much resistance to anything. So just put a lot of ammo into them, and that's how you deal with them. For the Not Deer, these guys are a little bit more deadly than they were before because they have the new charge ability. Typically how I would deal with them is just use a heavy charged melee attack and stun them and keep hitting them until you knock them out. But you can deal with them pretty easily if you have armor pen rounds or just hit them in the head a lot. Then the Firebirds, these guys like to explode and do fire damage, so I would be careful trying to melee them. Just watch out for whenever they die, they do a little explosion. The Handymen, the best way to deal with them is to try not to look at them directly, or if you do, try to run away as soon as you can. They have a pretty high health pool, but they hit relatively weak. Whenever you see a red kind of glow effect coming from them, that means that they're about to pull you. And the worst thing would be if it happens to pull you into something else, or like into an anomaly. That's going to be how it kills you most of the time, is if it catches you off guard. So if you see them, just try to deal with it on your own terms. The Hesh are pretty weak. They're kind of like the head crabs of this game. You see them in large numbers, but Typically, whenever they see you, they try to run away rather than try to fight you, and it usually takes like 1 or 2 bullets to put them down. The cool thing about these guys is that they do drop mushrooms, so they have a chance of actually dropping the gold mushrooms, which are going to be very valuable. Then we have dogs, which only show up in the Crashsite currently, also very weak enemies, but now they try to surround you or run at you very strangely. They kind of like drift around the map, so maybe keep a pistol or something like that for them. Then we have the mutants and post-humans, starting off with the acid spitter or spewer. These guys are relatively tanky. I believe they have armor, so armor pen rounds do help with killing them. But aside from spitting acid, they're not very deadly. Just stay at a good distance from them, don't let them hit you, and you should be fine. The homunculus mutants are a little bit more dangerous because they can actually spawn with guns or stronger melee weapons. And they do have a bit of armor, so using armor pen rounds on them is recommended. And then we have the mask kids, or I like to call them little mantises. These guys are kind of similar to the Hesh in that they try to just run away from you very often, so they're not very offensive, but they do drop their mask sometimes whenever you hit them in the head, and that's going to be how you get the mask for the sewer thing trade. Then we have the explosive mutants. I've just been calling these guys radio heads for whatever reason. These are the ones that actually explode if you hit them in the chest, so be careful not to do that. Hit them in the head and you should be fine. And then we have the 3 different types of post-humans that you can find inside the dungeons, with the first being the military post-humans. These are going to be post-humans that spawn with very basic weapons, so like the Type 4 shotgun, the MP8 SMG, or like the conscript NFTA rifle. Typically very weak weapons, but be careful because for some reason they have a very high rate of fire. If they catch you off guard, they can kill you very quickly. Then the construction worker post-humans. These guys I actually really like because they have a chance of spawning with hatchets, crowbars, fire axes, sledgehammers, all very nice melee weapons. Aside from that, nothing too special about them. And then we have the scientist post-humans. What's cool about these guys is that they actually have a chance of dropping things like key cards, samples, ether cells, a lot of things that are unique to the lab tile set, so they are worth killing just to try to get rare loot from them. Moving on, we have the Wraith, which you find, I believe, only in PD002, although maybe they could spawn randomly. I haven't had the fortune of finding one just randomly on its own inside of a dungeon. These guys, if you manage to kill them, which usually just means rapid fire a lot of bullets into it, and try not to get shocked by it, it will actually drop its Wraith core, which you can take with you and then throw to spawn a Wraith. Then we have the Loner Scavs. I've been told that there are 2 different types of Loner Squads that spawn. First would be the Loner Stalkers, which actually look at your Loner reputation to decide whether or not they shoot at you. And then there would be the Scavs, which don't care and they just shoot anything on sight. But for the majority of gameplay, all of the Scavs are going to be the same to you. They have flashlight weapons, so you will always see them turn on their flashlight when they're about to shoot at you. And these guys actually have weapon progression, so depending on how many contracts you've done in the game, that will decide what kind of weapons they spawn with. So very early on, they just have the MP8 guard, and then as soon as you start doing a couple of contracts, they start to spawn with Type 15 security SMGs, or even military weapons that have light attachments. So they can get very strong very quickly. Then we have the NFTA military, which I believe is only in the Crashsite currently. These guys are also really nice to kill early on, just to get some nice early game weapons, because military guns are very nice in this game. And then we have a very special enemy, the Poltergeist. This one has a kind of radiation visual effect around it, and whenever you're close enough, it can do psychic damage to you. But aside from that, it is kind of harmless, and you only see this one in Perdition currently. Now, there are 2 enemies / anomalies that I don't have a photo of, that I believe spawn just very rarely. The first would be the Gru Phantom, which is like a not deer, but instead of charging at you, it kind of wanders at you and does psychic damage. You'll know this one if you see it. I believe it's only ever spawned inside of the RG East lab, and it's more of like a horror element than an actual threat. If you see them, you should be able to kill them relatively easily. And another would be the Phantom. So there are 2 types of Phantoms that I've seen. One is a Phantom that will teleport randomly and then decide to disappear. That one I have not seen very often, but it is one to look out for. And another is one that makes kind of like a whale call. This is the one that gets very annoying whenever you have very high mental fatigue. It will spawn and then chase you throughout the map until it runs into you and does psychic damage. Aside from that, it just takes like one hit and it's very harmless. There are a few other kinds of enemies that don't spawn inside of dungeons just yet, so if you don't see those listed here, that's kind of why. Next we have many different anomalies, starting off with the angler. This one I've seen a lot of people confused by because it actually has different colors. This one that I have a picture of is a yellow angler, but it can be blue, red, all kinds of different colors. And it actually has a transparent body that morphs and changes. What all of them do is whenever you look towards it, it will pull your crosshair into its body and throw off your aim. It will actually draw NPCs and enemies near it, and if they get consumed by it, then they get turned into like a passive NPC that becomes non-aggressive. If you walk into it, then you take psychic damage. Aside from that, it's not very deadly. Then we'll have the lightning anomaly or electricity. This you'll see with like a static charge. Just don't walk into that. Easiest way to deal with it is throw a bolt into it and then it'll let you pass. Then we have the EMP. This you'll see with kind of like a static electricity pulsing effect. And whenever you walk into it, all of your lights, night vision, all of your electronics will be disabled for a few seconds. Then we have the firewell. This you'll see with like a heat effect coming off of the ground. Usually you're able to walk around them, but if you don't have a path through them, throw a bolt into a direction that you don't want to walk in, and then walk around it. That way you spawn a fire outside of your path. Then we have glass jellyfish, which I've seen kind of rarely. These are little glass jellyfish. You can hit them and knock them away, but if you walk into them, you take psychic damage from them. Then we have glass webs. These you can also hit and break, and if you walk into them, you take a pretty decent amount of physical damage. Then we have the gravity orbs. These ones are a little annoying because they can toss you around everywhere at a very high velocity. I found that the best way to deal with them is either throw a bolt into it and quickly try to run past them, which has varying results, or just try to crouch walk past them and get through them at a very slow speed. What they're going to try to do is accelerate you very quickly into the air. If you're already going very slowly, they can't send you very quickly. Then we have the Pyrogeist, which, same as before, throw a bolt into it, and that will distract it, and you can walk around it. And then we have the Shade and the Shadow Orb together. So most of the time, you'll just see the Shadow Orbs. These are giant orbs that are basically absent of light. You try to shine a flashlight into it, and light will not pass through it. If you spend too much time inside of them, it will give you psychic damage, and it will actually spawn shade enemies that run at you and attack you. The shades function similarly to the shadow orbs in that you can only see them if you shine a light on them, and if you walk into them, then you take psychic damage. Then we have anti-gravity, which is not very much of a threat. It's just a small area that has low gravity. And then we have the starburst anomaly, which when you walk into it, triggers a delayed explosion. This one you want to be very careful around. If you have a perk that increases explosions nearby, they can get very deadly if you have something like that. Now, for the actual dungeons themselves, I'll just list a brief description of each of the dungeons with all the details that you need to know about them before I get into the actual dungeon. Now, I'll provide a list here of every dungeon that is currently available in the game as of 0.2.4, and I'll have timestamps below so you can skip to whichever one you need. Starting off with Crashsite. So for Crashsite, we're just going to start off at the observatory here. In case you didn't choose observatory as your starting location, it's going to be the area that is just south of Crossroads, and it is going to be freelancer territory. We're going to take the wall up here and just jump up top, and the entrance will be right here. Now I'm going to do this with pretty basic gear just to show that you don't really need a whole lot, but for the sake of demonstration, I am going to take a tack light for my headset. This is something that shouldn't really be too difficult to find. You can usually get it just from opening a few chests towards the beginning of the game. If you really need one, just go to Crossroads and try to look for one there. But really, you just need maybe a flashlight or a flare and a decent weapon and a heavy melee weapon. In the beginning, we're just going to have these radio heads, or the explosive mutants. Just do a charged heavy attack, and I've found that the small chest here usually has the same few things in it. It could be static, it could be not. And then these are always the same items here. So 9mm ammo, bandage, canned peaches. The one drawback to using this heavy melee weapon here is that it's so slow, you really have to like kite these guys, or else they're going to hit you a lot. There's always these two red flares right here, just to give us some visibility. And you can use them in case you don't have a flashlight to deal with this dark area here a little better. Coming up we have a knot deer. And usually how I will deal with this guy is just do a heavy attack on him. And he should be stunned pretty easily. Sometimes he does a charge in the middle of you stunning him, and once that happens, he's not going to be stunned, and he'll jump out of it and just hit you. But if you can get him stunned consistently, he just sits there and lets you hit him. These cobwebs are annoying and slow you down. And we have more radio heads. If you get a good charged heavy attack, you can hit multiple. Sure. My god. And then just have the exit there. There's not really a whole lot to take a look at. We've got dogs. They're usually pretty weak, so they don't take too much. They do hurt a bit. Plenty of food and bolts here. Bolts will be useful for anomalies and things like that later on. The most useless melee weapon in the game. It's like skidding around. The dogs have mastered the ability to drift in this game. I don't know how. It's insane. This part, I like to use a gun because these guys do have shotguns, and they're kind of scary to deal with. But I hate the iron sights on this gun. This is a really good shotgun to take in the beginning of the game. So I would definitely pick that up and like just trade it for the... at least take both of them to sell and use one of them.
So delicious, so different.
Although you will find an army shotgun later on. Goddamn. There we go. And then these guys just have the MP8, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I do like the ammo. And then another shotgun. And here we have a blue chest. I actually really like that rifle a lot. I'm going to take that one. And that's going to help us out with the squad that shows up. There's usually a few MREs that are just scattered around here, so look for those also. Bandages and an MRE that spawns right here. And we're going to trigger the Osprey that spawns, and then just kind of run back here. If you've got a sniper or like a rocket launcher or something that could take it out, it spawns like right over here, and you may be able to just like shoot the pilot right there. But I'm not going to try to be risky. Now, my strategy used to be just leave the dogs and let the dogs take care of the military, but the dogs suck now, and don't do a good job of doing that. So what we do is we just let the military spawn in, and just like take them out as they start to walk up. It's a lot easier. There's the army shotgun we could use. And if you're wondering how I'm taking the ammo out of the guns, it's just middle mouse click. Or like shift, middle mouse click. Type 15 is really good to use. Definitely grab that. And then the MTR-14 is a really nice burst 5.56. I would also recommend taking that. Grenades, if you care about using grenades. And then you're pretty much done. Just head on back. Next, we'll be doing RG East, which is going to be in the flooded plains. It is neutral territory. You don't have to go through the lab to get to it. Just once you're at flooded plains, head west and then go south through this little building here. And the entrance to the dungeon will actually be outside, right out here. Oh no. It's fine. Now, I've made a couple of changes to my gear. Primarily, I've got a crowbar now. You should be able to find that just from looting construction areas, crossroads, killing the post-human construction workers, or from the static spawn that is in the depot. And then I have a scanner here. At this point in the game, you probably won't be able to afford one, but I do want to show how it works at least. And then just some basic upgrades for my armor. Nothing too outstanding. This is also the point in the game where you do want to start using bolts, so make sure you have a few of those. And I would highly recommend having just a decent flashlight that is either on a weapon or on your headset. I'm not going to worry about showing you how to do the battery installation. I've shown that on a contract video. We're just going to go through everything that might be important for this dungeon. Now, with this being the lab tile set, it is going to spawn samples. Those you do want to look out for because they're very valuable to sell. I really don't like these spitters. Now, this is blocked off with electricity. You can throw a bolt in it and walk down that way, but we're going to come back around to it. I'm not totally worried about going there just now. What we are worried about is this little terminal here. You can type help to see what different functions there are, directory to see what you can read. It will give you mostly lore, but what I'm worried about here is the containment wing. That will show us different rooms that are in the containment wing side of the building. So like hazardous material storage, living subject number 64B, error, and then artifact containment. Now, I'm not going to be mean to you. We're going to avoid CO2, but we do want to get the rest of them. Don't type CO2. There we go. If you're curious, you can open that one and see what happens. Function actually shows you what I typed in here. These are the different functions for the different doors that this terminal can open. It also has access to a light, so LO1. And then it has access to the doors U03, U02, E04, and E03. So we can just go ahead and open those two. Then if you have a crowbar, I could just spam it on these. If you're wondering how I do that, what you do is just tap crowbar to hot swap to it, and then hit the C key, which is its alternate fire, I suppose. That way you're able to just use it without worrying about the animation delay. Now, back in the U03 room is usually where Bad Egg spawns. And I think he's dealing with a lot of spitters right now. It's a very annoying enemy. That rapid firing sound is usually Bad Egg just shooting a bunch of people. Either that or a scav has spawned down here somewhere. This is usually Bad Egg's room, LO1. Sorry, it's not a light. It's a room. If you don't see him, be careful. This room, S06, we can't open just yet until we have either a keycard or we open it with a terminal. Yeah, I hear him walking around. Where are you, bud? He could be down in the main room also. Oh my god.
Not done yet.
Come on, buddy. Watch out down here, there's plenty of little fire wells that spawn that you could walk into if you're not careful. I think he threw an arc grenade at me. Yeah, that's a pretty unique thing that he spawns with. He usually, well, I would say always has the arc grenade and then the Type 15B security SMG, which is really nice. And he uses armor pen 9mm. The attic lab key is going to be nice for later. And then the keycard. Plenty of tool chests down here to look at, and in case you didn't know, this is where the battery is supposed to be inserted. Now, you're usually pretty safe in this room. Usually... It's fine. I'm gonna take that just to sell it. That kind of works as like a Geiger counter. Oh, hello. I wanted to take a picture because I very rarely see that one. And I'm still a little confused by it. Okay. This is an ether detector that works as a Geiger counter. So what it'll do is you toggle it, and it'll tell you whether something that has ether is nearby you, and you can adjust how sensitive it is. This is better used as like a radiation or like hazard detector than it is as like an artifact detector. So I don't like to carry that one around too much, but I think it does actually work inside your backpack. We can try to demonstrate that. Yeah. So if you like the idea of having that as just like something that detects radiation or dangerous anomalies, you can keep it on your backpack and carry it around. What I do like to use for detecting artifacts is this one here, the Etherflux scanner. And I brought it here because there are quite a few spawn locations you can look for inside this lab. But it looks like we might not be too lucky. Let's go ahead and turn that one off. So just scan around. If you see a very bright, small dot, there could be spawns like here on either side, or even like up top on the little walkway. Just try to open every chest that we can, so that we have better chances of getting loot karma. And I'll go ahead and show the different directories here as well. There's one that is very important. That's a lockdown notice that tells us the override code for one of the locked doors here, 8344. And the function that is unique to this terminal is S06. Since we have the keycard now, we don't have to worry about this, but just in case you don't have bad egg yet, you do need to activate this to get into the next room. And this is a very nice room because it has a blue chest, scoped BR61. It's got better velocity than the one that I have, so let's go ahead and use that one. And then these, I believe, are themed tall cabinets, so they'll always have plenty of loot. And I'll take a look here. It doesn't look like it really affects the loot karma either, because it has a preset spawn, so it's not going to really hurt you. You're free to just open this and take everything. If you're really lucky, you'll get really nice samples here, but not today. Now these are affecting the loot karma, it looks like. But we kind of got crappy rolls there. Same thing with that. What we're really hoping for are just better samples, because those are the most valuable things in the lab. And before we go anywhere, let's just look down this way. More samples are nice. Just be careful with the little firewall that always happens to spawn right there. Now this, you can lockpick it if you feel like it. It's just gonna lead you into the generator room right there. I feel like something's following me now. And look at that. I think I may have used all my loot karma. Oh, no. On a couple of bolt-action shotguns. Okay. Let's try to see who's following me. Let me grab my camera, just in case. Oh! It's just a homunculus. Okay. Oh, this guy's really not too bad to deal with. Him in combination with other things is really deadly, but just on his own, he's not too bad. He'll pull you in if you look at him for too long. A little tanky though. And we're gonna use that medkit. Why not? I've been able to avoid his attacks sometimes by running away, because his hits come out like rather slowly. So if you time it just right, you should be able to do that. But not bad. The code that we got earlier opens this wing, and I'm just curious. So the handyman earlier, he's supposed to be stuck in here. But I think somebody let him out. Very strange. Nope, he's still in there. So we just had a lucky little spawn of getting another handyman. And the artifact that we were given from the chest here is a really boring purple tesseract. Just brings you to a random location. Now through here, there could be possibly an artifact if you're lucky, but we're never lucky. This actually just leads back to the giant pipe room in the other hallway back where we found the first terminal. So in case you have trouble getting the code for whatever reason to unlock this door, that is an alternate path to get inside. Now in here, just be careful of the electricity anomalies. We usually need to just throw a bolt right through here, and just run right after it. And then throw one this way. And sometimes there's some artifacts that spawn over that way, but don't think we got anything this time either. Pry open our little armor locker and see what we get. Nothing too amazing. There is a unique item here, the test drill memo, so we'll just grab that. And you do want to open this locker if you can. It contains the Lab PD002 keycard. That's going to be good for later. And then a little crafting table. But that's about all that you need down here. That should be just about everything. At this point in the game, you are likely to encounter scavs, so it could be a lot more dangerous than it was for me this time. If you do run into scavs and you have trouble with them, just back out and come back to the dungeon at a different time. But aside from that, nice and easy. The next one that I'll show is going to be the E206 lab, which is going to be located at Depot. This one is neutral territory, but is going to be mostly surrounded by military, revolution, freelancers, all kinds of people. So be careful when you come here. If it is swarmed and you're a little scared of running into a fight, usually the safest way to get here would be just coming straight from the Black Lake and going south here. And you'll end up at this little transition right here. Just run up this way, and you'll be right at the building that we need to be. And just go right here. And this will be the entrance to E206. Now, for E206, we're pretty much going to take in the same things that we brought with us to do the RG East Lab. Mainly, you just need a weapon with a light on it, or a helmet with a light on it, and I would highly recommend taking a flare with you. At least a few. Now, usually the scariest part about this dungeon is that it does like to be swarmed by scavs, but we'll see how it goes for us. Sounds like it. Now what we could do is throw a flare at them.
What was that? Freeze.
That way they can't see us, but we can see them. And just take them out that way. There's a lot of them this time, too. But that's usually the easiest way to do it. Once they're all gone, just use your flashlight again. And check their bodies. Depending on what time in the game that you come here and clear out the scavs, they could have a lot better weapons than this. I'm doing this mission before doing any contracts, so right now they have like the worst loot that they can. But typically they'll have some of the best weapons that have lights on them. Right in this room is going to be a little crafting station. And right here is always going to be a data tape, just in case you forgot one. These guys, the little, I call them mantis kids, if you hit them in the head just right, their little mask will come off, and that's good for a trade for the sewer friend. And then right over here is a door that I believe we can lockpick. And that'll basically skip the whole dungeon, but I'll show you how to get around it. There's a mask.
No matter how you change.
Down here is another nice little lootable area that does have the lab tile set spawns. So you do want to check these for samples, phosphates. Plenty of like fun things to find. Just watch out for this little fireball pyrogeist anomaly. What you could do is throw a little bolt to get it distracted and have it like stand still for a while. Once it moves into another room that you would like it to stay in, just toss it at it and let it just, you know, hang out over there. And let it do that while we're looting these. Usually when I'm deciding what to loot, I just look for things that I like using or things that are valuable to sell. So a lot of those like grenades and stuff, I don't really care about. Now here could be another spawn for scavs, or usually just another difficult enemy, so I like to be careful walking through here. There is a guaranteed spawn for a computer board in case you don't have one yet. And there's usually a spawn right here. But we didn't run into, like, anyone. It was a very unlucky find. Alright. We'll take a look at the functions and the directory here real quick. Mostly just more lore things like sample ready. Door sequence. Sorry. Door control, door lab, and light lab. All of those you can activate in a sequence, and they're fine. Gas 05, you want to set to false. Turn that off, and we're free to go through. Now that does open this door right here, so anything that's back there, if it's scabs or post-humans, they're gonna all run through. These guys sometimes drop ether cells. Pretty valuable. And there's a key card right here, just in case we need to come back later, which you probably do. And the spot that we need for the data tape. Sometimes scabs like to hang out down here. I like to grab the little companion crate right here and use that to hop over this door. And there is our second guaranteed ether canister. Hello. This, I believe, is another themed cabinet. Nice tool chest. Where are you? Come here. Oh my god. And here is the red root sample that we need for our mission. So the combination here should be 8613. That, I believe, is the code that you get from watching the data tape. That should be open. Another tool chest, cabinet, nothing crazy. Now, let's take a look here. I don't believe there are really any artifact spawns down here, but there are some blue mushrooms. If you have a perk like Collector, you may want to look down here just to see if there is anything. There is a blue chest, though. Compact rifle's pretty cool. Once you've looted all of that, you're pretty much done and you're good to go. You just head on back up. These labs like to spawn scavs, so just be careful that there isn't a group coming in. And just go back out the same way you came in. Now for UT308, we're also going to be in Depot, so we're going to just go east from the road here. Again, I like to take the little route from Black Lake south into Depot. Once you reach kind of this point at the north of the map, go east here, and it'll be tucked away. You can use like a fire axe or just shoot it down. For this dungeon, we really don't need anything too special. I would recommend that you have a decent amount of poison resist, because we are going to need that. But really, there's nothing else that you really are required to bring, except maybe a flashlight. Here we've got a few lockers. And this is going to be the point where we find most of the homunculus enemies. Just be kind of careful coming through here. They do seem to have armor naturally, so having armor pen is good for them, or just putting a lot of damage straight into their head. Couple more lockers, nothing too crazy. And we don't really have to worry about this part just yet. Little wide chest for us. That's pretty cool. You could look around back there a little more, but it's not very important. There's mostly just a couple more, like, chests and short cabinets, things like that. Nothing really worth looking for. We can take a look over here. I think there's just going to be more homunculus enemies. And then I believe a... Nope, nothing else. So nothing that way. Tanky guys. So the path forward is actually on the right over here. They can't really crawl through the tunnel, or rather the entryway here. So you're free to just kind of shoot them from here. But just be careful if they do spawn with guns. Ow. They don't usually spawn with good guns, but they do spawn with shotguns sometimes, and that hurts pretty bad. The natural armor that they have really makes it take a lot longer to kill them. That was crazy. Sometimes they'll get caught up here too. Check out these cabinets, they're pretty good to loot. And if you are here on the contract, you're going to need to check this room. This is where you download your data tape. And there's just a few more rooms up here that we can loot. I will take that. Check on the left side here. Plenty of stuff we can get from the lockers. And then some more tall cabinets. I'll grab that. And then this is the end of the dungeon right here. So, from here, we can go left and go down, and this is the part where you do need some poison resist. And some acid resist would help too. Just run along there, and then once you're up here, you're out of the gas. This will be the armor locker, which I actually kind of want to use that. That's really nice. And then a little artifact chest. It's decent. Unlock that. And then we can go back up this way. And this will take us back to the little maze earlier. So from here, we can just go right. Stay right. Right again. And we're back out. And that's pretty much everything to it. That's UT-308. In order to get to the subway, we're going to start at Metropole, and you're going to want to try to get to this little intersection right here, just south of the sign for Metropole, which would be just outside the bank building, right here. We're going to go left, and I don't believe you need anything to get inside. Should be unlocked. Just go down, jump over here, down again. There's the bank vault. Unlock that door and go down. And we're going to run just all the way to the end. All the way down. Now, again for here, you really don't need anything aside from possibly acid and gas resistance. So having good gear for that would be nice. As well as just a flashlight. Nothing too special at the start here. Now, what's interesting about this area is that there are suitcases all over the place. If you have a decent loot karma, you could open them and try to find jewelry or like gold coins. But they're pretty rare. I wouldn't spend too much time looking for them. You can just open them if you feel like it. Data tape's pretty cool. When you get to this point, you will find the little like fungus gas spores. If you have a decent resistance, you should be able to just run through them without taking too much damage. But they don't really hurt that badly. The biggest portion of damage that you're going to take is most likely going to be from the acid. Just run through it as fast as you can. Whew. Now, there are scavs that can spawn down here. I would look out for them. If you see something turn on a light, be very careful of heading out here too quickly. If you see something like this, that's flashing a giant red image at you, or a big red effect, you definitely don't want to be pulled in by that. I would recommend not fighting it in the acid. Just kind of wait until you're able to pass without it pulling you in, and just run by. It can't really chase you that badly. It's going to try to just pull you in before it tries to attack you. And that's the hard part done. Once you're here, nice little tool chest. Mostly not a lot that's worth looting, but there's a few short cabinets, things like that. There are post-human construction workers that spawn here, so in case you don't have a crowbar yet, you could get one here. The valve that we need for our quest is right here. And in these rooms, still kind of just a few lockers, cabinets, things like that. Really, all that we're concerned about is the very end here. This, I believe, has just better lockers that are guaranteed, or are themed lockers that have like scav gear, kind of stuff like that. Or really just like basic gear, not even scav gear. It seems like these containers are just a little bit better than average. And then right here is the shortcut back to the beginning of the level. And then heading back up this way is a blue chest that you don't want to miss. There could be scavs that spawn up here as well. And look at that. So it sounds like we got a scav spawn below us. And some decent armor. We've also got a firebird that's very deadly. It's kind of waiting for us, it looks like, so... just kill it right there. Now, right here, you need to drop down on top of the pile of rubble. And be very careful. If you don't drop on this rubble and you fall on the tile right here, it does way too much damage. Sounds like a scav's right here. Hello. Listen for that little toggle of them flashing their light. That usually gives them away. And right here, we're kind of back at the middle of the dungeon. Oh! More scavs. Just go back onto the train cart. And then head back towards the beginning. So the right over here. Back on the train cart. And then to the left. And you should be fine. That's the subway. Now, to get to Cistern, we're going to just go to the crossroads, and it'll be right over here on the coast. Just go to the main road, head west towards the Standard Ether Company building right here, the little warehouse. Just go down into the water and... oh, right up this way. Now, for this dungeon, I would recommend having either an oxygen tank or a grenade. I'll show you why you would use either of them if you want to do a full clear of this dungeon. But aside from that, just have a good light, preferably flashlight or one on your helmet. and a decent weapon that you're comfortable with. Now, first thing off, down here, there's going to be a few tool chests and things laying around, but nothing too important. You can go down the ladder here, and there will be a light switch you can use to shut off most of the lights around here. The stairway on the right here leads into the little office portion. We're going to try to just wade through the little glass webs here and go down the left side. The EMP is very annoying, which is why it's useful to have a flare. We can just drop it and carry it around. Oh my god. That was a feisty little hash. Oh my god. Usually there will be a number of post-human enemies here, or some kind of like fey creatures on the bridge here, so do be careful. And then back over this way is going to be the doorway towards Sprat, if you have that mission activated. Down this way is just going to be a few lockers, containers, things like that. We're not worried about it just yet. We're going to keep going down. Man, the EMP there is very unlucky. Okay. Just head left down here until we reach the terminal, and we'll take a look at the functions as well as the directories here again. This time it just has systems. Tells you what everything does. I'm not worried about the lights really. We really just need to turn off the gas line. So that's GL14 false. Then we want to turn on AG04. And we're good here. Just keep heading on down this way. And on the right down here, this would be a room that is covered in gas if we didn't turn off the gas line. But there's still a few hazards we have to worry about. Get out of the way. Primarily these little bear traps and a lot of glass webs. We're going to break the window and just kind of like crouch jump through here. Shitty loot. And you want to look at the little whiteboard here, get the code 2047. This code is always different, so don't copy mine. Get your own. And then at the end, you can open that door and enter the code in the keypad here. And we get a blue chest. Pretty nice little bison. And then back up the stairs here, we can take a right, go down, and there is a crafting table. And apparently a gravity well. Or anti-gravity. Now, whoa. It's spawned a bunch of Fey for us down here, which is kind of scary, but it's not a problem. Here, there are artifact spawns that can spawn down in the little water down here. What we're mostly worried about, though, is just going straight down into the tunnel. Just go left and then go straight up. And this will be Sewer Friend. Or Sewer Thing. And he's got plenty of unique trades. Most importantly being a guaranteed left balloon. So a gold mushroom for... Sorry, a gold mushroom and 3 blue mushrooms for 1 lift balloon. And then you can buy red coins. Or a guaranteed standard infantry armor. And then a lot of different ammo types as well. This one's not bad either if you can actually find these things. He's cool. We're gonna go back down. And I'm gonna just try to avoid all of the Fey down here. Go back up. Whew. Nothing else really over there worth looting, unless you do bring a scanner and end up seeing artifacts that spawn down there. Aside from that, it's just a few tool chests and things like that. On the left over here will be more cabinets, as well as chests. I do need that. And then this will be the entrance to PD002. Now, I'm not going to do this dungeon in this guide. It's only for a contract, and I have already done that. So I'll just leave a link to that video here, if you do need that one. And I'm going to give myself a couple of flares, just so I can show you guys how to get out of here. Because I don't think it's very enjoyable not being able to see what I'm doing. So, from this entryway here, just go back up. Once, twice, until you're back on the little balcony here. And we're just going to keep going until we hit AG04. If you are carrying a flare, be careful not to run into these pallets. It's going to light them on fire. And as a side note, you can actually open this door just by looking at it closely. It looks like the only number here that's used is 5. That also opens the door. Now, I don't have Sprat active, but if I did, he's usually standing just like right here. And we can still loot the things from his room, like the Ether Drill Manual. And the infrastructure records. This is important. If you need the code to get into PD002, read the records. It's at the very end. Couple of random cabinets and things. And you do want to actually open these lockers as well. There's going to be a refinery keycard right here. Now we can head back up and go left here. If we keep going straight, we'll go back to the offices. This is where the initial stairway that we skipped earlier would lead to. There's nothing really too special here besides just a few things we can loot. Nice jewelry. And it sounds like we've got some scabs. What's nice for us is that since we came to this room... Oh my god. They seem to be walking into a lot of, like, the glass webs. So a few of them may have died just right at the top here. But just be careful because scabs can spawn in after you've already joined the dungeon. Alright. From here, you want to just go straight down. Hello? On the left here, we can open this door. Toss it through the window like that, and it'll break the barricade. And this will let you into the Red Root room. But in case you don't have a grenade, and you brought an oxygen tank instead, let's go down this way and turn around. And the path we need to go is actually down and to the right here. And then just go left. And hug the right. Right again, and then just go straight up. And you should be good. Now, on the right here would be the Red Root room. Straight ahead here would be the armor locker. Pretty decent stuff. This would be the blue door that leads back up. We need to check out the Red Root room, though. There's going to be a whole horde of hash that spawn down here. What's cool about them is they actually drop mushrooms consistently. And I believe if you have the weird luck perk, they can drop golden mushrooms a lot more often. So you could get lucky and find a decent amount from them. On the right here, there could be an artifact spawn. On the left, we get a blue mushroom. Same for this room. There could be an artifact spawn. And I believe maybe the same for this room. But we do want that mushroom. And here we have our red chest. Camora. I'll just take the ammo. On the ground we have a red root sample. Let's just keep it right here. And then if we go underneath it and look up, we have two more. And then on the very back end here, we've got one more. So we should have 4 of them total. More blue mushrooms. And that's about everything. Now be careful because the red root does give you hydrophobic. We've got 4 times hydrophobic. So we want to try to avoid the water as much as possible. Basically just bunny hop through it and you won't really touch the water all that much. I believe you have to stand in the water for like a full tick to take damage from it. Be careful of the scabs if they spawn. And we can just head back up on the right here and take the stairway all the way back up to the top.
Mind your own business.
And this will take us pretty much back to the entrance. Just be careful not to run into any anomalies that do damage. And keep looking out for scabs just in case they spawn up here. They'll turn on their light usually before they try to shoot you. Just hug the left wall and then we can reach the ladder. Now, we're not quite done yet, because we do have a bunch of red root, and we have to leave through here. So I would make sure that you've got plenty of healing, and you're not weighed down by anything, just have good movement speed, and hug the left side, and up the ladder. And this damage is all healable, so just give it a second and you'll be okay. And that's the cistern. Here, I'll leave a link to my other contract video which covers how to do the PD002 dungeon. It's mostly just going to be for a couple of contracts, or if you want the prototype drill head. But aside from that, there's not a lot of loot to be found here. Now, to get to T1806, or the M35 dungeon, we're going to just run from the northeast of Crossroads here, following this blue path. And just go straight along the highway here. I'll speed it up until we get to the point where we actually have the dungeon entrance. So from here, we're right about at the middle of the end of the highway. Just start to go down this stairway. And then at the very end, almost at number 2, we go down, and then on the left here is the dungeon entrance. There's a couple of things that I would say are essential to this dungeon. First of all, having something that can break wooden barriers very quickly, like a fire axe or a shotgun. And then something that can open containers very quickly, like a crowbar. You're not going to want to try to spend all of your time lockpicking, you need easy access right away. The only threat that's going to be down here would be the haunted turbine or wind engine, or sometimes referred to as Dave. Your only concern is just looting right away, as fast as possible. We're just going to break the top of all of these barriers and just crouch jump over them. And see if we get anything good from the chests here. And then take the left side, break down this barrier, and just walk right through it. And usually Dave is just right over here hanging out. Break this real quick, hop over it again, and use your crowbar to open up, excuse you, the armor locker. Be careful of him. And loot this real quick if you want to. If he gets stuck right here, I kind of like to just let him in and run by him. There's nothing else here that you really need, so just leave. And you're good. Now, at this point, I do want to mention that if you looted your red chest and you are not happy with it, or you looted the artifact chest and you're not happy with that, what you can do is, before you leave the dungeon, just load your save. It'll take you back to the entrance. Leave the dungeon and go rest somewhere. And then come back. Every day, whenever the timer reaches 0000, the loot in red chests and blue chests reset to something else. So just come back on the next day and try again. If you open the red chest and leave the dungeon, that's going to keep the red chest open, and it's done for. So just keep that in mind. Alright. Next, we're going to have Perdition, which is actually a little more simple than it would seem at first. Just start at M35 Northeast, and go until you're kind of at the end of this little intersection here, and you reach this transition into Dead End. And so we're going to just go off the left side here, and go down, across the little river, and into the little tunnel over here. And we will need like a fire axe or a shotgun or something you're able to do heavy damage with to break through those wooden planks. In here we have a little safe house. And then just on the left over here is the entrance to Perdition. Let's go ahead and get this fixed up a little bit. Now for here, I would recommend having some healing. At least a weapon that you're okay with. And then we definitely need a flashlight or a light on your helmet. And then some bolts. These are going to be very useful later. Aside from that, you don't really need a whole lot coming into the dungeon. Let's go ahead and loot. There's not really a whole lot to look for here, but we may as well take a look around. Now here is going to be the first encounter for an enemy spawn, and here we got a nice little handyman. That's fine. we need to just look in the little room over here and grab this oxygen tank. And see if anything else spawned for us. Not really. We need this tank to go down into the tunnel here that leads into the water maze. Just head straight until you reach this little intersection and go right, and go straight again. Take a right here. Go right again. Go left. Make sure you're not drowning. Go right up here. And that should be it. And then right up here is going to lead you to the rest of the dungeon as well as a shortcut. So let's go left here real quick. I'll show you this little shortcut. This takes you back to the pump room that we were in. So there's the handyman again. Just in case you need to come back here for whatever reason. We're going to close that. Now I am curious, if I hit this, do I find anything? And so far I haven't seen any artifacts spawn down here. That doesn't mean that there can't. Oh, he's following me. Well, let's keep going a little bit. That doesn't mean that there can't be any artifacts that spawn down here. There could be possibly some that spawn with the collector perk, I believe, that I just haven't seen. This maze area is mostly just going to be anomalies, so like shadow orbs and glass webs. Just look out for those. It's not a particularly difficult maze. You can just get pretty hurt by these glass webs if you're not careful. This area here is the second room that could have a dangerous spawn, so right now we have the poltergeist. He's not too bad, he just kind of throws things around and can give you like mental damage. Yeah, we're not too worried about that. Let's just keep going. Oh my gosh. And let's take our bolts out. Be careful not to walk into any of these shades on the floor here. These rooms on the side really only have like lockers and things like that. We're not too worried about it. We're just trying to get to the end. So with your bolts, try to aim it so that you hit the firewell on a side that you're trying to not walk through. Like that. So you can walk through it safely. Just activate this little valve here and walk on through. Now on the right here, this requires a power generator to activate, so we're gonna just go on the left. Knock that over. Down here is going to be a couple of groups of the explosive mutants or radioheads. You can just ignore them. A couple of chests here, nothing too crazy. And another group of radioheads. This time they're in our way. Now this is the fun room. I actually do like the ballistic helmet drop here, that's pretty good. And the red chest. We have the tactical UMP. I do enjoy that too. It's pretty good. Make sure you activate the generator before you leave. And we'll just walk on through to the other side. And from here, you pretty much just keep walking. There's going to be some EMPs, some radiation. Just stick to the right here. Walk past this big glowy. It's going to do a little bit of radiation, don't worry. Oh no. Just keep going all the way to the end. We can do another scan here just for fun. Yeah, nothing but anomalies. And once we leave here, we are at Stone Maze. So welcome to the north. We're going to be on this side here, which is luckily right next to another stash. So just hug the right side, go past this little truck, past the barrier, and here's our building. And you're good. That's Perdition. Now, since we're done with all of the dungeons, I did want to show you guys something extra. There's a red chest here that not a lot of people know about, inside the black market shop in the broker's armory. So this door, I believe, has the same strength as Bixby's door at the burrow. You can use lockpicks for a while, or you could just use the skeleton key artifact if you have that, or you could use a blowtorch. It's going to set off an alarm, but the alarm won't cost you any reputation. And the red chest here, that's fine as well. And there's also a regression matrix. Use the code 0451. It doesn't cost you any rep either. And there you go. Now, they are going to send in guards with LMGs. Oh, hello. The guards with LMGs won't be hostile unless you are already at a bad reputation with them. If you loot anything else here, it will cost your reputation and you'll go to distrusted very quickly. The bodyguards by broker will try to shoot at you as soon as you walk out, so just kind of sprint past them. And you're good. So we're still trusted. If you're not already trusted with them, or say you're distrusted with the freelancers, or a stranger with them for whatever reason, just be prepared to fight them. And let's go back in and just see if we're still hostile with them. So the LMG squad is gone. And let's see if the bodyguards are going to fight me at all. Nope, we're good. And we can talk to the broker like nothing happened. There you go. Nice and easy. Well, that was a bit of a long one, huh? I hope you guys enjoyed the guide and it was actually helpful to you. I know the next update actually plans on making a lot of changes to the loot system, so whenever that update rolls out to the public test branch, I'll take a look at it and do some testing and try to put together a guide video a little bit sooner than I was able to do this one. There were just a lot of delays that kind of got in the way of putting this video out, so I appreciate you guys being patient with me. And I will take a look at the next update as soon as I can. But until next time, I'll see you guys.
Subscribe for more.